Looking to learn a new skill and get in shape at the same time? Look no further than our 6-week beginner boxing course. You'll build your strength and endurance, improve your coordination and reflexes, and gain confidence in your ability to defend yourself.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the time has come for the main event of the evening. One time for the undisputed champions of the community. It's go time!
Okay, in this corner with the champ today, I got Senator John Thum. No?
Yeah, close. Happens all the time.
You told me
Yeah.
it was the senator.
Yeah.
What do you do?
I'm the police chief.
Oh, the police chief, John Thum. When we start off our segments, we start off here training. You get a choice. You either get the bag, you want to hit the bag, or you want to hit the mitts.
We'll hit the mitts
Hit the
today.
mitts, okay.
Yeah. Full disclosure, I'm not a good boxer, so watch your face.
Listen, that was a threat. Did you guys catch that? Let's fact check if he's a good boxer. Because I heard you used to train here.
Back in the day, Bruce used to work with us at the PD.
Yeah,
in
see?
our mat room.
So you do know
little
how to
bit.
throw the
Little
jumps.
bit.
Okay, we're going to go through 4 punches.
Okay.
1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. I like it. Go. I like it. 2, 3. 2, 3. Again. 1, 2. Chief, we want to know important things.
Yeah.
When you ask, especially when you talk.
Really important things.
Yeah, like police mustaches. Please explain.
So, things come and go.
Right.
When I was a rookie cop, mustaches everywhere.
Right.
All the young guys would make fun of the old guys. Now all the young guys have mustaches.
Yeah.
The older guys have beards.
It's
It just goes and goes.
Okay. I needed that cleared up. So, do not try it. I'm telling you. Leave him alone. Leave him alone. 1, 2. Is it a requirement that everybody's shirt be so tight?
Yeah.
It is. Okay,
We
that's
want
what
to show the muscles.
That's what I think. But there are some.
It's like anything, right?
Right.
Like, so you and I probably more baggy t-shirt
Yes.
guys.
Yes, for sure.
Some guys just like that Taylor
Just
stuff.
like the woman. But there's a couple that shouldn't have. I'm not saying, don't pull me on.
That's right.
Don't pull me on.
We're
Okay,
gonna put you on the list now. Right, there you go.
dang it. So I'm feeling like now that we've gotten to know, this is intimate, right?
Yeah,
So now I got to know
100%.
you.
Yeah.
We're connected.
Yep.
I need tickets. Do I get tickets?
You get tickets? What do you want tickets to?
To ball.
There is no police ball in Sioux Falls.
I knew they didn't have one.
Yeah, we don't have one. We're too busy working. We can't get people off.
I knew it.
Yeah.
Knew it. Boom, boom, boom. I like it. 2, 3. Now walk. All right. Okay. Favorite person to arrest?
Oh, you know what? It's been so long.
Yeah, well, so you're behind a desk. You don't even have to.
No, I'm a pure administrator now.
You just say, go get that guy.
I'll tell you what though, there's certain points throughout your career though where people do really bad things, right?
Yeah.
And you get to put the cuffs on them, and that's a really rewarding experience, right?
Yeah, okay.
That's homicide suspects, people of that nature. Because ultimately we want justice. We want to hold people accountable in certain cases like that.
Yeah.
Especially cases where kids get hurt. Like we take.
I want to go to that one.
Yeah.
I want to arrest him too.
Exactly.
I just want to see it.
Yeah.
Just say- Batman or Punisher?
Ooh. So, which Batman are we talking about?
Christian Bale.
We can't go all the way back to the first Batman I
We
watched.
can.
Yeah.
We can go to with Adam West.
So I'm Christian Bale Batman.
Okay.
I prefer Christian Bale
Oh,
Batman.
let's go. Let's do it.
But I really enjoyed Adam West growing up.
So you prefer Batman over Punisher?
I do.
Okay, so vigilanteism is fine if you're a billionaire in Sioux Falls.
And wear a bat costume.
And you got to wear a bat costume.
Yeah, there you go.
And then the Chiefs all in favor
Yeah.
of vigilanteism. I appreciate the time.
Yeah.
Now let's jump into the ring and get to some real questions.
Perfect.
What's going on, people? It's your boy, Manny Gutierrez, the champ. Welcome to another episode of In This Corner with the Champ. Today we got El Jefe, the head honcho, true champion of this community. He's keeping you safe, keeping me safe. He's no longer giving any tickets ever again. So that was cool. We promised that. I got John the Tombstone Thum. How are you doing, man?
Good. Thanks for the intro, man. That's one of the most enthusiastic intros I've ever had. So I
try
appreciate
to
it.
make sure that
I'm
you
gonna come to all my press conferences from now on.
Absolutely. They signed me up. I'm ready to do it, man. How did it feel? We did a little punching. How'd you feel?
I mean, felt great. Like it's not every day you get to go out and hit the gloves like that, and you mind how much you like it, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you get in life and you can't do the stuff you always used to do and like to do a little bit, especially as you get older.
Yeah.
So get out there, breathe hard a little bit, throw some punches.
Get a little
Felt good.
aggressive.
Yeah,
Get some
felt
aggression
good.
out in a safe way.
Felt good.
Nobody got
Yeah.
hurt. All right, that's awesome, man. So let's kind of jump into it. You're the police chief now, but
Correct.
But how long have you been on the force?
So I started in 2005. So I've been on almost 18 years now. And man, time goes fast and goes slow at the same time. But it just seems like yesterday I was working my way through field training and just happy to be here. And fast forward, here we are today.
Dang, now
I'm on a
you the
podcast in a
chief.
boxing ring, right?
Right, this is what we're doing out here. With the
I've reached the
champ.
top.
With the champ. So I don't know if you know this fun fact. I believe you gave me a warning once.
That
and
could
this
be.
would have been probably 2006 or 7.
Yeah.
My tail light was out.
Yep.
But I remember because we had a conversation about your alma mater.
Oh, the USF?
Yeah, SF.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we had that conversation.
Yeah.
And then I never wanted to hit a cop before until I heard that. Dakota Wesleyan, baby. We in
That's
the
right.
building right now.
Back in US, I remember going and playing Dakota Wesleyan. Yeah, we always won.
Yes.
Yeah, but it was all right. So-
What had happened, well, never mind.
Never
We're
mind,
just gonna go past that. Yeah. So, as a police chief and being a police officer, like what are some things you want people to know about being a police officer?
Well, I think something I just said this in a retirement. We had some guys retire last week. Is as soon as I showed up at the police department, I was amazed and just really encouraged by the great group of people that I work with. Right? I mean, they're from all walks of life, different backgrounds. Each brought different skills to the table, and I think everybody has in their mind that there's all these cookie cutter images of cops out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, these are some of the greatest guys and gals I've ever met. And we go out there and do work that matters, and they put a lot of heart and soul into it. And I think that's something I want people to know about the police department is just that there's great people trying to do good things. But the nature of our work is sometimes a little bit of controversy and conflict, right?
Sure.
But never lose sight of the fact that we're out there trying to do good things. So
That's awesome. So take us on the journey you went. Like you said, you started in 2005. How does one become, what do they call it, a field officer?
yeah, well, yeah. So you start off as a patrol officer, and when I got hired in 2005, I was like, I worked sales a couple years before that.
Yep.
Wanted to give that a fair shake because there's a certain stability to Monday through Friday, 8 to 5.
Right.
Well, you don't get that in public safety, right?
sure.
But I'm like, this is where I felt led, where I felt called to be, and started as a patrol officer and just loved my job as a patrol officer. Didn't want to do anything else. After a couple of years, I thought I wanted to be a detective because if you watch movies, TV shows, what's the best job to have as a detective?
Cool. You get to dress cool.
Yeah, you get to dress
Right?
cool.
They think you're cute
Yeah,
and
you get
handsome.
to
They're
wear
like,
sweet
yeah,
shades, regular
yeah,
clothes.
and everything's cool.
I was 0 for 6 on detective applications.
Okay.
I mean, not undefeated. I was no wins,
You
right?
were defeated.
Yeah. Much like my senior season at Lincoln football.
There you go. Yes.
Anyway,
yeah.
Well, then I realized, maybe what you think your skills and abilities are, you got to be open to what other people are telling you. And I actually was more in the training, tactical side of things. So I got on the SWAT team, got heavily involved in training, taught everything from ethics to firearms and defensive tactics, PPCT, Krav Maga, stuff like that throughout my career. And that was really my niche, And so I became department training officer after about 8 years of being a patrol officer, and I missed being on the street. So 2015, I became a sergeant. 2019, became a lieutenant. And then the chief Chief Burns announced his retirement in 21 and had never any intention of being chief, but always believe in going where you're led and going where you're called. And I felt that I was being called that direction and put my name in and became chief, and the rest is history, I guess. But never, if you had told me when I was a young cop I'd be chief someday, I'd be like, nah, never gonna happen. You know, I don't. But you know, sometimes you got to listen to where other people are maybe giving you advice and where you're called to be, and trust that path. So.
Yeah. So it seems like just listening to that path is you've always been almost like a coach, always helping.
Yeah.
And leading people. How has that changed, or what challenges have grown or have come from that spot? Now you're chief, because you go from being, one of the guys, right?
Yep.
Now you're the jefe.
Well, it's interesting. So throughout my career, I was really used to being engaged with people, like both the employees. I love being a patrol sergeant. Being a patrol sergeant was the best job in the department. And then as a lieutenant, I was SWAT commander and SWAT team leader, and I had the ability to work with those teams and do stuff. Well, now when you become the top administrator, you don't have that day-to-day contact with everybody that you once had. You got budgets and administrative issues. So now the challenge is, well, who's the next group of leaders underneath you, and how do you make sure they have the resources and the encouragement that they need to go out and lead people effectively and to be those great coaches and mentors? And I think that's kind of the challenge for me now, is to really understand that my hands-on role is a little bit diminished, but how are we making sure we're encouraging others to take that same role and those same steps? Because we got great people who are picking up that up. And again, we're a big organization, 320 people. So it takes a lot to make it work.
For sure. So you're coaching the coaches now.
Yeah. Yeah, but I still got to coach youth soccer a little bit. Which
there you go. There you go. Which is that might be harder.
Be able to coach my kids' teams is awesome, and then coaching neighborhood soccer the past couple of years at the Garfield site. It's just great to get out and just interact with kids and coach and do things that sometimes are away from your career field.
For sure.
It's fun to get out.
For sure. Speaking of career field, people always. They see police officers, they hear of, the news or whatever they get. But what is one of the scariest situations you've been in?
So my wife asks me this question all the time, and she says I'm a liar, right?
Okay.
Because I say I'm never scared.
Right.
Right. Now, that doesn't mean after the fact that you're not like, that could have been bad, right? But I think part of like training and mental preparation is that you know the deal, right? And I always tell people, before you become a cop, you got to be okay with a couple things. Your days off are going to stink, your schedule's going to stink, and this job could take your life, right? So being solid at where you're at and where you're doing, but in being in some hairy situations, especially as an operator or as a field level employee, there was no time for that, right?
Right.
There was only time for action. What's difficult though is when you become the coach, right?
Right.
When you become the team leader or the SWAT commander or the chief, it's a different feeling when you're putting people in harm's way, right? And there's a different dynamic in how you understand that. So I found that's more stressful for me and causes more anxiety than actually being the person doing it, And I think that's the dynamic sometimes of how we look at things, and the burden of leadership and the burden of certain situations. And so we've been, like I said, it's just a different dynamic. But there's been, again, plenty of situations where after the fact, and I'm like, whew,
yeah,
that was close, right?
Yeah. Which one? Pull one out that you went,
well,
whoo, I got through that.
And so there was just one situation, and I think the night of the riot gets a lot of publicity, but I don't really want to focus on that. But like I said, your perspective changes when a rock the size of a softball flies by your head, right? That kind of, and one hits you, and you're like, okay, well, this is the real. But there's been a couple situations where you stand before the moment, right? And so we're chasing this parolee through these neighborhoods, and he's got a gun. He says he's not going to go back alive. He's not going to do X, Y, and Z, foot pursuit through neighborhood after neighborhood. And there's a moment where that you have to take action, right? You have to go. So you take a deep breath and you move, right? And then things turn out okay, right? You do trust your training and ability. But there's just that moment where you take a deep breath and go. And that's kind of where you overcome. Like I said, I think there's a lot of fancy quotes about it that, it's not the absence of fear, but it's the ability to function through fear.
Right.
And I think that's probably the realistic approach to stuff like that. So.
Love it, man. Well, we've talked a lot about your career and being a police officer, but let's talk more about Chief Thum, the person.
Sure.
John Thum, right?
Yep.
What's your favorite memory? You got kids, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Favorite kid memory?
So I've got 3 boys.
Yep.
They're 12, 11, and 9.
Yep.
Right. And you could go a bunch of different directions, but I remember them as babies, right? And so here's my favorite memory. So we had them back to back to back, and we had 3 kids, and we had no daycare. So my days off were middle of the week days off. My wife was a hairstylist. She'd do hair, and I'd stay home with the kids. So I had sometimes 2-3 days where it's just me and the boys. Mom's at work. They're like 3, 2, and 1, and then 4, 3. They changed, right? So a couple moments, and one would be when I'd get him to nap simultaneously. I got a little PlayStation FIFA time,
Let's go, right?
But just the ability to be home with them and then just do things, right? So one of our main rituals was I'd load up the boys, we'd go to the mall, we'd eat in the food court, and when they're still little, they love that little play area out there.
Yeah.
Right? And so to have that routine, to be able to spend time with my kids as toddlers and babies and really be active and to be with them, that's one of my favorite memories, And now I love watching them. Our 2 of the 3 play soccer. I love watching my kids do activities.
Yeah.
I love watching them play sports. It's almost an escape for me almost to watch them go out and do things. My oldest kid does ninja. It's fun to go watch him do that at the ninja gym. So.
Well, I mean, that's important. Like in your field, it's important to get rid of some of the external, right?
For sure.
And tap in. What about as a husband?
Oh, so again, a phenomenal wife,
Yep.
right? My wife, and we met in college. We've been married since 2004.
Was it hi to her real quick?
Yeah. Hi, Melissa. I don't know if she's going to watch it
Yeah,
or not.
we're gonna,
which camera are we going
we
to?
hope you watch.
We hope you watch.
He just said,
yeah.
because he loves you.
Yeah. And so, again, great wife. And I think one of the things that she sacrificed a lot for my career, right? For my job, because I think sometimes what people don't realize, especially in public safety or jobs like ours, where we don't work a Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, something's got to give, right?
Yeah.
And it only works if your wife supports you. And that includes countless SWAT call-outs where leaving town on Christmas Eve to go help another community, right? Because they had a SWAT situation, or picking up in the middle of the night and having to go with things, and her having to pick up the burden with the kids. And she's a phenomenal mother and takes great care of the kids, but also I think the recognition that she just does whatever she can to help me in my career and to help us so that our family can do what it needs to do. And again, really grateful for her and everything that she sacrificed, because basically she had a hair business, so my job just strangled the life out of that.
Well, yeah.
just killed it.
Can't do any scheduling. Yeah.
The schedule isn't there.
Oh,
so yeah.
man.
So again, great family. And I think you get perspective as you get older and wiser a little bit too. And you're like, wow, just how lucky am I?
So what did you do to show appreciation? Because you got some young officers that are probably watching that are probably dealing with some of the stress, right? Of being married or engaged or something. It's a stressful job.
Yeah.
How do you show the appreciation to the wife, man?
Well, and that's just it. You have to give them grace too, right? Because everybody has the right to be frustrated too, right? Because there's a family sacrifice. And sitting at the retirements last week, we had 4 officers retire, over 100 years of experience. And at each table was a family, right? And that family gave so much so that officer could do their job. And so really it's a way in the retirement to not only recognize them, but every single officer will recognize their family, right, for what they did. And so the younger officers can see that and know and model that behavior that, it's a family affair, right?
It is.
Like the family gives for it. So
she's sending you out.
Yep.
And you said it's your hours are going to stink.
Yeah.
Your days off are going to stink. And you can lose your life.
Yeah.
And she co-signed that.
She co-signed that.
Yeah.
Tell new cops too. But we had a funny situation one time. We had a SWAT call out in Marion, South Dakota. This guy had a hostage, and if there's an issue in a smaller community, they'll call us for help because we have the resources. And so it's Christmas Eve, right? And families into town from all over spots, and the page goes off. Well, you don't get to not answer the page. Right. So I'm an officer at the time. Well, we meet at the station. Every single person shows up, right? Like no one's like, nah, I'm out. It's Christmas, right? Everybody shows up because they know the mission. And we're rolling down to Marion, South Dakota. But the joke was, if he wanted this situation over quick, we just would have sent the wives. Because the wives would have got in there.
100%.
No holds barred, taking care of it.
Taking them
It might have been
down.
ugly. It might have been ugly, but they would have.
Job would have been done, though.
But yeah, but we come home. We're home. We resolve that situation, get home just in time for midnight mass for a few people.
Yeah,
And
there you go.
roll right into Christmas. So,
Nice.
Yeah.
Love it. So on your journey, right, you've seen the ups and downs, right? So what does success look like for you, or what is your own personal definition of success? I know a lot of people, like you said, you go to your calling sometimes, what you're called. Some people will say, oh, my son's going to be a doctor, a lawyer, whatever.
Yeah.
What is your personal definition for success?
And so, again, we get pretty sucked up into what we want sometimes, right? Well, I have a different mindset. When I was a kid, I would take these, I'm a person of faith, and I go to church and I take these spiritual gift inventories, and it always come back with service, right? Something driven towards service. And that's where in my profession as a sales, it's not that my job was bad. I just wasn't filling my calling, right? And that's why I transitioned to law enforcement. I knew that service was there. And in my service, right, to the community, to my department, ultimately what drives me is you just want to leave it better than you found it, right? Because there's a lot of things there, a lot of things we can try to accomplish for ourselves, but ultimately I care, and the people around us at the police department, we kind of have a mantra: always be training your replacement and leave it better than you found it, right? Always building towards success. And there's success and failure mixed in with that, right? Because not everything is just all sunshine and lollipops, but that's kind of the mantra and what success looks like for me. If I can get done with my career there and say, you know what, I've left it better than I found it, right? Then that's something that I can hang my hat on, so to speak. So
That's cool, man. That's a cool way. So now, speaking of that, now we're talking about reaching that success. We got a belt here, right?
yeah.
The show's called In His Corner with the Champ. What are some core characteristics, attributes you would consider for a champion to have to become a champ?
Well, yeah, and that's two I just kind of gave you,
Yeah.
right? Right, is leave something better than you found it, right? And always be training your replacement, because it's not always about you, right?
Right.
Like a true person understands that it's not just your accomplishment, right? It's who you bring up behind you, and hopefully they're better than you are,
Right.
right? Hopefully the accomplishment that they leave behind exceeds yours and goes there, and that's because I think people that will give anything, and the other thing too is, like, if we look at champions and people who are successful within policing, there's a lot of individual stuff and thought, but ultimately the team's more important. And we kind of go through some of our SWAT team selections and who we look at, and even some elite military units, they're looking for the best teammates.
Right.
Like, you may be the best shot, you may be maybe do the best mile and a half or the most pull-ups, but at the end of the day, when the chips are down, you need the person that'll give to the person next to them and be that best teammate. And so again, I think many times in society, especially in this day and age, we look at individual accolades and what the individual wants, but the team ultimately gets more done. And I think, and that's where, for me now, I had a realization with this, right? When I became chief, first SWAT call out came out. Well, this is the first time in 11 years I haven't been associated with the SWAT team, right? And I sat at my desk and I turned my radio on and I put it on my radio, and I realized there's nothing I do now, right? As far as operations or activities. I listen to the call, it goes great without me. Everybody does what they're supposed to do, how they're trained to do, and they didn't need me, right? And next person up, next person there in succession. And in many ways, that gave me more pride than actually being the one who is responsible for that operation or that mission.
And comfort.
Yeah,
Right?
comfort too.
Like, yeah,
right?
hey, man.
Yep. And then
It's okay.
I turn the radio off, and then I go talk to the press.
There you go. There you go. How
my job.
do you like that part of your job?
You know, it's weird because as a kid growing up, I went to Axtell Park, I went to Lincoln, and I had a speech impediment.
Yep.
I'm a stutterer, right? And every once in a while you'll catch me where I'll kind of get caught on a word and I'll stutter a little bit. Well, growing up, I was afraid of public speaking, right? I never wanted to get in front of a mic or camera. I didn't want to talk in front of people. Well, then I got this job at the meat counter at Hy-Vee, right? What was I doing? Talking to people every single day. Every single day.
Calling, man.
Yeah, right. And I'd keep stuttering periodically, but then I worked through it. Then I became a cop, and through community outreach and neighborhood events, I'd have to get up in front of people and talk. And so you keep working at areas that are difficult for you or that you struggle with, and eventually they become a strength, right? And so again, I went from a stutterer who, really would never speak up in class for fear that I get caught on a word, to somebody who now has to regularly engage the press, speak in front of city council, go on a podcast, with a big belt with the champ. So again, I think sometimes when things are uncomfortable, like a lot of times people are like, well, don't do things that are uncomfortable for you. Right. In fact, in many ways, if we're uncomfortable with something, that's all the more reason to get into it. Growth and push through some of that adversity. I got a saying, within struggle lies knowledge and ability. If we don't struggle, we don't gain knowledge or ability. If we only do what's easy for us. So
100%. Here at Think 3D, we have a saying says, nothing of significance happens without intention.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
What has intentionality played as a role in your life?
Sure. And so there's a couple things. And in many situations, especially professionally, no matter where you work, whether it's the bank or the police department, certain things are just out of your hands, right? Certain things you just can't control, right? They're just things that, despite our best efforts, they are what they are. But there are always aspects that you can control, right? Mm-hmm. And so when I first tried out for the SWAT team, I couldn't control numerous aspects of what that test would be. I couldn't control who the competitors were. I couldn't control what was going to happen, but I knew I could control this. I knew I could control my physical fitness, my mental preparation, and some of the other tests that I knew were in there. Like, those are the things I knew I could control. So focused on those, be intentional and not worry about what you can't control, but really go 110% into what you can. And so throughout your career and throughout your lives, you're like, yeah, let me focus on these and not get frustrated or bogged down by what I can't control.
Like it. I like it. When we talk about the belt and it's just a trinket, to be honest, right? It's a toy. It's something. I don't care what fighter, right? I remember watching an interview with Mike Tyson. He throws his belts on the floor. The interviews as it's garbage, right? Because what matters is the person wearing it.
Yeah.
Right. That's the true champ. Right?
Yeah.
So who's been the champ in your life, let's say maybe from childhood growing up into currently?
Oh, sure. So childhood growing up, like, great parents. My parents got divorced when I was a young adult, and I think, but they both brought great things to my life and great things that I have taken with me and understood and kind of can roll with. But then there's my grandpa, right? So my grandpa is a Korean War combat vet, right? And as a kid, he helped raise me. He was grandpa daycare back in the day.
There you go.
And we spent a bunch of time together, and listening to his stories and listening to what he experienced. And then him always pouring into my life, right? And he always wanted a kid to be a trooper, right? Or a highway patrolman, right? Well, his kids ended up being electricians, teachers, and my mom was a nurse administrator, PhD. They're all extremely, successful, right? And, but I always felt, again, that call to service, right? From part of his career. And then my other grandpa was a World War II vet. My dad was in the Naval Reserve for 24 years. And so service for me was either going to be military or police,
right? Based
off what I knew ran in my veins, so to speak, right? Mm-hmm. And so when I became in law enforcement, nobody was more proud of me than my grandpa, right? And so we talked throughout my career and I've worked through. And again, I always tell my kids too, I go, life's tough, but let me tell you about grandpa. Let me tell you what he experienced, and know that blood runs through your veins too, right? There's generation, there's legacy. And so from a familial sense, when I, was up against it, so to speak, I knew I had it in me, right? Because my grandpa had it in him, and that's something that you go to. And then professionally, I can say this. From the day I walked in the door, I had numerous mentors, right? Numerous mentors, from training officers to sergeants to lieutenants to captains to chiefs, right? And again, that's what one of the legacies of the Sioux Falls Police Department is again, always train your replacement, right? And so again, reaching levels within the department, these guys, I could see they were almost more pleased than I was, because they knew they had poured into me. They knew they had given me that chance, and they had worked with me extra hard. And so it's hard for me to pick just one, but in my mind, 5 or 6 will flash through my eyes right now, right? Because I know that all these guys that put extra work into me and encouraged me and saw potential and kind of pushed me along the way. And so for them, I owe a lot of gratitude too. Or maybe certain times when the job gets really hard, maybe I should blame him.
I would. It's your guys' fault. He did nothing wrong. He never does anything wrong.
Yeah. So there's just, again, and that comes back to so as chief now, I want to make sure that we maintain that legacy of mentorship and training your replacement and always pouring into the people at your lower levels, people who are working for you.
Love it, man. Was your grandpa able to see you become chief?
So he's still alive.
Let's go.
Yeah. So
how do you feel about that?
Oh, he's, like I said, probably more pleased than anybody else, and even, funny things happen. Like we spend our whole lives talking, right? And we sometimes wonder if anybody listens. And recently, Bob Young, my old coach at USF, right?
Yeah.
Right. He passed away in memorial service just a couple weeks ago. And I'm hanging out with some of the guys I used to play with. And one guy goes, "Hey," he goes, "Is your grandpa still around?" I'm like, "Yeah, he's still around." Well, he came and talked to football chapel way back 20 plus years ago because my dad was the campus pastor at USF. So he came and talked to football chapel and told his story about some of his experiences in Korea. And the guy goes, "Man," he goes, "I'll never forget that story." He goes, "The impact it had for me to hear about his experiences and know what real struggle is and how to really overcome adversity." He goes, "I'll never forget that story." So I call Grandpa up, right?
That's so cool.
Right? Because now you're 90 something, right? And it's important to know, right, that the things you say and things you do, people remember, right? And they have impact whether you know it or not. And you may never know it, but treat people great, give them a respect, take the time with them, and you never know what you're going to impact.
Give them the flowers now. That always, that's really kind of what this is about as well.
Yeah.
Giving the champions of our community the flowers now. Don't wait till they're gone.
Yeah.
To say all these great things, right?
Yeah.
You give it to them now. Say, hey,
Yeah.
you know what? You guys are champs. In my life, you've impacted so many lives that you probably don't even know. You know what I mean? And so I'm honored and I'm humbled to have you here.
Oh.
Right? It's always fun to have people from different backgrounds to come and sit with us. And this was a really fun time. You got some pop?
Yeah, well, like I still keep
pop.
doing it. But, I just want to thank you too, because I've had the opportunity to go to Leaders of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
I've had the opportunity to go to Leaders Tomorrow at Joe Foss and to see the work that's being done and the effort and the energy that's been put in. Again, I'll champion that all day, right? Like that's something I'll talk about any chance I get, and how we are giving back to the youth and making sure that we give them the resources, skills, and abilities to be successful. Like I said, that's some champion work right there. So I appreciate it.
Always, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Do the clicking the link and subscribe, like thing that you're supposed to do when we do the YouTube thing. But listen, y'all, give it up for John the Tombstone Thum, a.k.a. El Jefe, a.k.a. the Chief. It's your boy, Manny Gutierrez, the champ. It's the champ.